Welcome to the Essential Self-Care Podcast, a show for those of us who are, let's face it, too busy for self-care. Each week, we bring you real-life stories and expert insights to help you create a kinder, more compassionate relationship with yourself. I'm your host, Dr. Sheetal Ajmani, a physician with over 2 decades of experience blending Eastern and Western well-being practices. As the founder of Radiant Living Institute, I'm here to help you reconnect with your own inner radiance. Remember, small changes make a large impact, and it all starts here. Please note, this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice. Always consult your own healthcare provider about your specific situation. Now, let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to the Essential Self-Care Podcast. I am so excited to welcome back to the show Dr. Stephanie Pearson. Dr. Pearson was on the show recently, and she shared more about her personal self-care journey. Specifically, before we dive into that, I want to share a little background on Dr. Pearson. She is a board-certified OB-GYN, educator, and advocate for physician well-being. After a career-ending injury, which she shared more about on her previous episode that she was with us. So if you didn't check that out, definitely go back after you listen to this episode. But after that injury, she ended up co-founding a company called Pearson Rabbits, which is a national insurance brokerage dedicated to protecting physicians. Drawing from her own experience, Dr. Pearson educates and empowers physicians on the importance of disability and life insurance. She is a sought-after speaker who helps physicians safeguard their futures while championing well-being in the medical community. And I had the pleasure to meet Dr. Pearson in person when we were both invited to speak at a recent Women Physicians Wellness Conference in Grand Cayman. So on the previous episode that Dr. Pearson was on, she shared her self-care journey and specifically related to that injury that I mentioned. And that led her to now educate and empower physicians on disability and life insurance. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about that. She's going to share a bit more about her expertise in those areas. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Pearson.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And so, why I'm really excited and why I invited you to share on this topic specifically, well, we have not talked about disability and life insurance at all on this show. And, this show is called Essential Self-Care, and it is all about sort of breaking myths around what self-care can look like and also expanding our idea of what self-care really entails. And so I have had financial advisors on this show to talk about our finances, because we maybe don't often think about finances as a part of self-care, but it is. And, without going into the full story, because I know you shared that in the previous episode, but maybe just enough to set some context, if you can share why this is, because we both agree that looking at and being familiar with our disability and life insurance is a part of self-care. And that's why I invited you to be on this show. And that's why you do the work that you do. Can you share a little bit about why you think that's such an important aspect of self-care?
Oh, absolutely. So super briefly, sustained an injury, lost my career, lost my identity, and had all of the things crash at once. So financial, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, you name it, kind of came crashing down. I found out the hard way that what I thought I did right in the insurance space, I didn't do right. And it was out of sheer ignorance and really feeling as though I hadn't been properly educated, I wasn't advocated for, and really when I needed help, my broker was less than helpful. And after hearing my story, a lot of my friends were like, oh my God, what do I have? Like, I've never looked at this before. I found out that my group policy through my hospital in fine print didn't cover work-related injuries. And that's insane to me. But it's a way for hospital systems to save money on said policy because workman's comp money comes from the state, whereas insurance money comes from the carrier. And I had never looked at it and really didn't know anyone who had. And then I found out that my private policy that I got as a first year attending, had I gotten it just 6 months before, would have been a lot cheaper because there are discounts that trainees can capture and it stays with them moving forward. And the language in my policy wasn't perfect. And I kind of just threw myself into it. And I'm not convinced that when I first started throwing myself into it, it was with the intent to start a company. It was more the intent that I was mad at myself for not knowing something. And then kind of thinking back, like, why would I know that, right? Like, I'm a physician. We go to med school. We do our residency. Nobody really, at least 20 years ago, nobody really talked about finances. And realizing that we weren't at the right place. So I was grossly underfunded for disability insurance and overfunded for life insurance. And that's when I hit the wall. And I really just wanted to learn everything that I could learn about the topic. And so, I locked myself in a room with lots of books and colored pens and made note cards. I really wanted to learn this stuff. And I started lecturing to area programs and realizing that people really didn't know this stuff. And then, when we talk about repurpose or finding a new purpose or reinventing oneself, it took a while. I mean, it was not an overnight thing, but over a span of maybe a year, my husband and I were like, maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing next. And initially I thought it was dumb because I'm like, I'm not a salesperson, I'm a physician. And he was like, but you don't come across salesy. You're teaching again. And like, you like teaching and you've gotten teaching awards. And so if you go in there and you're educating people, it's different. And that's kind of how it all happened. It definitely was not overnight.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And, as you were speaking, I agree with you. I don't know anyone who has really read all the fine lines of their policy. And, if you're offered I think kind of the general approach is if you're offered a policy from your employer, you just kind of sign up for what seems the best and move forward. People, and then you don't think about it again unless
something
happens. Right. And so I think, that's where, and things can happen. That's why these things exist. And so that's why I think, the work that you're doing and the lessons you learned through your own journey and this deep dive you took on that through your own journey to now share that with others and to educate others and provide support to others in that way is just so, so important and so valuable. And I truly don't believe that different challenges come along on our journeys just by happenstance or for no reason. It's often to dive deeper into knowing ourselves better, perhaps also helping us, as you mentioned, reestablish that sense of purpose or dive into and explore different aspects of ourselves and or the world that we live in. And so I'm curious now for someone who's listening who is exactly like what we just said, who would raise their hand to, I have never read the fine line, the fine print on my disability or life insurance. I know I have it. My employer, provides a policy for me. Or if someone is like, I've never had disability or life insurance, I don't even know what to look for. What would you say? What are some general tips, things to look out for that you would recommend to someone? And of course, I understand, and I will put the disclaimer out there that nothing takes the place of course, meeting with a professional. But it's just some sort of general information that you would want someone to know about this topic. Before we go on, I'm excited to share something that could really make a positive impact on your life. Do you feel like you've lost touch with your true self? Reclaim Your Radiance is Radiant Living Institute's signature coaching program designed to help you reclaim your worth, renew your energy, and restore your happiness in your life, career, and relationships. This 6-module program has already helped countless women regain control of their lives. Whether by setting boundaries in challenging relationships, finding strength through life transitions like divorce, pivoting in their careers, or rediscovering their purpose as they embrace new chapters of their life. Start your journey today and begin living authentically, unapologetically, and radiantly once again. Head over to radiantlivinginstitute.com/reclaim-your-radiance to get started. I hope you found that helpful, and if you're ready to explore this more, check out the link in the show notes. Now, let's jump back into today's episode.
Oh, so, going back to the group, right? My employer provides a policy. If your employer pays for that policy, you actually don't have a choice. You automatically get enrolled, right? Sometimes they'll have a voluntary policy or a buy-up where like they will pay for the core policy, but if you want more, you have to pay for it. You have to actually ask human resources for a master copy of the policy. Otherwise, they are literally going to send you a one-sheet summary that does not tell you any of the details. It'll literally have like one line, and I'm making this one up, but like, all right, our group policy covers 60% of your base to $5,000 a month, right? I've seen them as low as $1,000 a month, and I've seen them as high as $35,000 a month. It's a wide range, and you want to go over the policy with somebody who's done it a lot to see where the holes are, because every policy is a little bit different. Keep in mind that if your employer pays for your policy, any money that you would get is actually taxable. Whereas if you're paying for it, whether it be a voluntary employer policy or a private policy, any money you're going to get is tax-free. So big difference there as well. And oftentimes, going back to the folks haven't really looked at their group policy, a lot of folks don't even know that there's a maximum benefit. And so I will often speak to attending physicians, and I have to be in an unenviable position to be like, this is what you think you would get, but in reality, this is what you would get, right? So I think that kind of is one big one. On the private side, the biggest, most important thing is that it's truly specialty specific, both by what your occupation is and by the definition of total disability. And this goes across really all white collar, I would say higher earning folks that have distinctive skill sets. So you want it to actually cover you for what it is you do day in and day out. You don't want to be compared to a room of your peers, because let's face it, we all do things differently and make money a different way. But you also want the definition of total disability to say that you're considered totally disabled if you can't do your job, regardless if you're gainfully employed in another occupation. A lot of group policies, instead of the word regardless, it's and. One word changes a lot, right? If you're only considered disabled if you can't do your job and you're not working, it's not a great definition. I mean, most of us, and Lord knows I have the most respect for stay-at-home parents. I'm not meant to be one. And so you want to be able to figure out what's next on your own terms. And I would say that's the single biggest issue. So that's like two biggies in a really short period of time.
Yeah, that's really valuable. And if someone is already enrolled in a policy, can they revisit this at any time? Can they ask to see these documents? Can they revisit that? Can they, make changes as they need to whenever they want to?
So yes and no. It depends on whether you're talking about your employer policy or a private policy. So employer policy, you have no control, period. They own it, they control it, they create it, they keep it, right? With a private policy, and as long as you're an employee, they should give you the document if you want to review it. And it's not a bad idea every couple of years, because quite honestly, hospital systems change them every couple of years. And so we're starting to see other nuances that are popping up now that say weren't there 5 years ago. With a private policy, it's your policy. I mean, you should help create it, you control it, you keep it. You should be with somebody who's willing to go over it with you whenever you want. And additionally, is going to keep on top of you, right? The guy who sold me my policy and I never really heard from him again, right? You actually want to know that whomever you're working with has specific touch points throughout your relationship with them.
Yeah, that's great. And so that is now primarily what you are doing in
Oh,
terms of your both educating as through speaking,
yes.
but also working with clients and helping them through that process. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what does that journey look like for someone who is interested in working with you?
So I liken it to going to the doctor's office because we do ask a lot of demographic information up front, partly because one, I want to manage realistic expectations. I don't like surprises, so I don't want our clients to have surprises. There's an initial phone call with one of our producers, and that's usually 30 to 45 minutes. And I will tell people, there are certain things that you want to get fast, right? Like you want to go to McDonald's and get your burger in a couple of minutes. Insurance is not something that you want to just happen fast. There are nuances, there are, differences between each person, between each carrier. So I feel like that time is very well spent. We go over basic DI 101, basic LI 101. We go through options for each person based on the information that they've given us. And then we follow up, at different cadences depending on who it is that we're speaking to. And then once they decide to work with us, right, then we have the whole application process, underwriting process. I get involved if any of the underwriting isn't exactly what we expected, which goes back to that why I ask a lot of questions up front. And then we touch our folks about twice a year. And more or most importantly, when people have to go out on claim, it doesn't matter who they've spoken to in our company. I'm the one who calls them. They get my cell phone number. I check on them initially every couple of days and then space it out appropriately. I help them with their claims packets. I give them a little, pep talk about what's going to happen and what to expect. And I invite them to the Facebook group if they're interested. I think we have close to 600 people now. And that's all word of mouth. And I vet everybody because I want to keep it a safe space. And so I care just as much, if not more, about the back end of what I'm doing now rather than the front end, because that's really where I felt the most let down and felt like I didn't have anybody supporting me. So at least if I can be a support space, then I feel good about what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for walking us through that, because simply through sharing how the journey that you take clients on working with you, I think also gives insight, hopefully, and we will share where people can learn more about you and hopefully set up a initial call with you and start working with you. And also for people who may live in different parts of the country or the world who may be looking at exploring their options. I think you walking through the journey that you take people on also gives people an insight of what sort of things to look for.
Right. And that's what we do. I will caveat disability insurance is just United States. I can't actually help people internationally. But if you're here on a visa, we can help. So there's even a nuance there.
Good to know. Thank you so much. Now, if anyone wants to learn more about you and learn about what it would be like to work with you, where can they learn more?
The website is pearsonravitz.com. I am on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram under both my name and Pearson Ravitz. So there are multiple places. And you can call the office. Find me however you want. Carrier pigeon works too.
Wonderful. And I will include all of the links in the show notes below. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I know you have so many choices for how to spend your time, so I thank you for being here today with Essential Self-Care. As a gift, download your free workbook, 6 simple yet powerful steps to create your radiant life at radiantlivinginstitute.com and start your journey to a more radiant you.